Denver topped out in the 80s today, the 10th time this year. It's the most year to date on record. And today, heat wasn't the only story. Strong winds prompted another red flag warning, something we've seen a whole lot of lately. Colorado has had 114 this year, the highest number going back at least 20 years. We're glad you're with us. I'm Kim Christensen.
I'm Kyle Clark. So those warnings obviously weren't for fun. We've had several fires start around the state today. Biggest one by far is southeast of Colorado Springs. Our own Chris Bianchi happened to be passing by the Hammer fire in a plane tonight and took these photos for us. The fire department in nearby Hanover says the fire is estimated at 4,200 acres. The El Paso County Sheriff's Office issued an evacuation order for about a 6-mile piece of grid. At this point, we don't know if firefighters have any containment or how that fire started. Let's check in with 9 News meteorologist Kathy Sabin. And National Weather Service, Kathy, put out a warning for a particularly dangerous situation, which is an attention getter, even if it's not very informative.
It's meant to be an attention getter because there's a sense of urgency with a potential severe or life-threatening weather situation. Sometimes the Storm Prediction Center will put these out as well, and they don't put them out very often. So the area in orange where that 4,000-acre fire is burning is part of an area where humidity values were down around 4%, tinder dry vegetation, and winds over 60 miles per hour, coupled with temperatures in the 80s and 90s. So a very, very serious fire weather and critical fire weather outlook for us today. And the winds really, were amazing, especially to the west and south of Denver and up in the mountains. We saw gusts of 60, 70 miles per hour, and it's still not entirely calm out there tonight. Much improved in downtown Denver, but look at the wind over Loveland Pass, down toward Castle Rock, and out on the northeastern plains. We're going to get a little lull in the action tonight, and then the winds will pick up in the foothills again tomorrow. But these current readings at 10:02 in the evening are above the average high temperature for this time of year. So very strange pattern, but relief on the way in the form of a low pressure system that will bring more of the mountain snow we're seeing on the radar tonight, and actually not just cooler weather to Denver tomorrow, but a chance of showers heading into the weekend. I'm going to break down the timing and impact of this next weather change coming up.
So Xcel said it was going to preemptively cut power to thousands of people in the San Luis Valley today over concerns that one of their lines could come down and start a fire.
But the utility did not end up doing that, saying the winds were weaker than anticipated. 9 News reporter Spencer Soisher joins us after trying to pin down a threshold for these types of decisions. Spencer.
Yeah, Xcel says the decision is based on a combination of high risk factors, not like a single metric. And today is not the first time in this "we'll turn the power off" era that Xcel has warned it would do a PSPS and then kept the power on. Xcel says it looks at extreme winds, low relative humidity, and low fuel moisture for a public safety power shutoff. But it doesn't publish a threshold, so it makes it tough for us to figure out when they'll do it. But we're going to try. Since 2024, Xcel has warned it could turn off the power with a public safety power shutoff 7 times. They've actually done it 5 times. On those days, peak wind gusts ranged from 78 to 112 miles an hour near where Xcel had concerns, while humidity for all 5 of those dates sat between about 9 and 16%. On the 2 days when customers were warned but power stayed on, like today in the San Luis Valley, peak wind gusts were lower, between about 47 and 60 miles an hour, even though the air was still very dry and red flag warnings were in effect. Based on what they've shown us thus far, the biggest dividing line appears to be wind speed, with shutoffs happening when gusts climb well above about 70 miles an hour, with fire conditions already in place. So the Marshall Fire, which Xcel paid $640 million in claims for but didn't admit liability for, had a peak wind gust of 115 miles an hour, but that day there were significant sustained winds as well. Live in Denver, Spencer Soisher, 9 News.
People who went to a certain school, hospital, or restaurant in Leadville over the past several days may have been exposed to measles. Public health officials say a child was confirmed to have had the highly contagious disease. They say that young person who was not vaccinated may have exposed people at Mineral 1886 restaurant this past Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Students and staff at Lake County High School may have been exposed on Monday, and those at St. Vincent's Hospital's emergency department yesterday. This is the state's 17th measles case this year. By this time last year, Colorado had reported 5.
A man whose conviction in a baby's death was recently thrown out could be paid nearly $2 million for the time that he spent in prison. Stephen Martinez was released from prison yesterday after a judge vacated his murder conviction for the 1998 death of a 4-month-old girl. Prosecutors originally said he was guilty of what was then known as shaken baby syndrome, but experts just recently concluded the child died of a respiratory infection, not child abuse. Martinez could now be compensated for the 27 years he spent locked up as part of a new state law, but the burden to prove it is going to be on him.
A court or a jury has to determine that there really was a miscarriage of justice and that they had no role at all, entire innocence, as it relates to the crime in question.
It's not clear how soon Martinez's attorneys will file a request for compensation, or once he does, how long it might take to decide the case.
The head of Denver's public safety department says there will be improvements to the process for sending out emergency alerts. Twice in 4 months, the city's 911 center has mistakenly sent messages citywide instead of sending them to the small several block areas as intended. Public Safety Director Al Gardner blames the first in January on a software glitch, but he says the one sent out this past Saturday was human error. And that's when the city put out an all clear after an armed robbery near Zunine, Florida. Gardner says a staffer failed to set a target area for that message, so it went out to many more people than intended.
There's a lot of room to perhaps do more training, more scenario training, and then actually add in additional layers and approvals.
It's worth noting some people got that message far beyond city boundaries, from Arvada to Aurora, even Park County. An expert told us that may have happened in if your location services aren't on your phone. So for some cell carriers, they send messages further than targeted to prevent liability.
High gas prices are really a drag on industries that rack up a lot of miles. According to AAA, the average price of diesel in Colorado is now $5. That's up $1.50 from a year ago. Some trucking company owners told us diesel is obviously making up a much larger share of their expenses these days. They have to figure out how to cope with that. Tour operators we talked with said they're paying more to fill up their vans, but they feel like they can't raise prices because they know that their customers are financially stressed as well. Food distributors told us the higher fuel costs are forcing them to pass on added fees.
Yeah, you don't know. It's very volatile, and it's one of the uncontrollables in the transportation business is fuel.
Business owners we talked to said that they're adapting the best they can, just trying to keep up with the cost of moving anything around these days. RTD police are looking for whoever was responsible for disrupting service for 5 hours yesterday morning.
They stole copper wire that slowed down some trains. 9 News reporter Ria Jha joins us. And Ria, it's a problem that's really difficult to prevent.
Yeah, and it's not like you can find this copper wire at your regular RTD stop. It's hard to find. They're in specific parts of the track, but people are going out and looking for them because copper is in high demand. And RTD says Denver is not the only place that is dealing with this. They're saying transit agencies across the U.S. are reporting an uptick in copper thefts that is disrupting services.
I'm an operator for the light rail train that we see here. Well, we'll be here.
Transit systems
soon, maybe,
are built around predictability. Dennis Hawkins said Tuesday morning's 5-hour commuter rail disruption was predictable.
When they steal the copper wire, it's like unplugging any electrical device. The power stops and the train comes to a stop. So if it was 5 hours, I would estimate that they took a large amount of copper wire, which is kind of unusual.
14 feet of copper stolen?
Yeah, that's a lot.
Was less predictable for Dennis.
Bad for the public and bad for RTD.
RTD said thieves targeted the area near the Clear Creek and Federal Station. G-Line trains experienced 15-minute delays from 5:15 a.m. to 10 a.m.
It was happening a lot for a while there, especially shortly after COVID.
RTD says copper wire thefts continue to impact the system. They report 47 calls for service in 2024, 31 in 2025, and 5 so far in 2026.
They would seal up certain wire hubs along the tracks, put wooden covers on them to try to make it more difficult for them to steal it.
Along with the wooden covers, RTD said they've also tried burying them and greasing them.
They tried to implement, but we have miles and miles of wire, as does the commuter rail.
And Dennis thinks it's not a matter of if, but when.
With as many miles as we have, it's kind of hit and miss.
RTD says each of these thefts can cost hundreds or even thousands of dollars to replace. So they said that they have investigators even in contact with metal scrap resellers so that they can keep track of where the suspects or get in touch with the suspects. Reporting live in Denver, Ria Jha, 9 News.